Man like Mark Sullivan, the warrior yourself. Stay tuned for the thrilling episode. Woo!
A positive mental attitude can clear away all obstacles which stand between you and your major purpose in life.
This is the Snowboard Project featuring Mark Sullivan and the Bead.
Welcome to the Snowboard Project. I'm Mark Sullivan.
And I'm the Beeve, and we are here at the Snowboard Project Studios at the Hot Water Inn with episode number...
Six.
Wow. Are we 6 deep?
We're already 6 deep.
Wow.
2 weeks, 6 episodes.
Crazy.
Yeah.
6. Who do we have today on the show?
Okay, so today we have Jeff Pensiero, and he's the guy who started the Baldface Lodge. And so, yeah, Baldface Lodge, it's like that's on a lot of people's bucket lists of places to go snowboarding.
I would love to go to the Baldface Lodge. It's up there, what, Nelson, BC area?
Yeah, Nelson area and, kind of the interior of British Columbia. And just, it's kind of world famous. And I would say, the best riders in the world frequent the Baldface Lodge. Guys like Travis Rice. God, name some pros who go to Baldface pretty much. Anybody.
Right, and they did that Red Bull contest there, correct?
That's right. They did the Red Bull contest there. It was called Supernatural.
Supernatural, yeah.
Yeah, and so they did that there. And, Jeff's an interesting guy, though. I mean, this is kind of the origin story of the Baldface Lodge and how it came about.
So we kind of learn about kind of the history of the lodge.
Yeah.
He has some history with a legend, Craig Kelly.
Yeah,
right?
totally. I mean, Craig picked the location for the Baldface Lodge, so that's pretty cool.
That's pretty sick.
But it's really the origin story, a little background on Jeff, but also some kind of like all of these podcasts, I try to integrate some kind of life lesson, some kind of learning experiences, just about that maybe you can apply to your life. And so we talked to him about some bigger ideas too.
I would love to apply to my life how one becomes the owner of a lodge in Nelson, BC. I mean, isn't that the dream right there?
Right, exactly. And so you get to hear the story right here.
Yeah, as an innkeeper, as a lodge, innkeeper, I want to know these things.
Right. I think that there's some valuable lessons to be learned by you specifically. However,
right.
I don't ask him about like the kind of like how to get rid of bed bugs or like
oh
anything.
my God, stop. There are no bed bugs at the Hot Water Inn. Anyways, Jeff Pensiero, should we roll? Pensiero? Sorry, it's a little more Spanish than what I've been saying. Jeff Pensiero, should we roll into it?
Yeah, let's do it. Episode 6, Jeff Pensiero.
Don't forget to support advertising-free snowboarding media at patreon.com. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project.
So you started out as a tech rep, and you were waxing for local guys, or were you waxing for...
Like when the NCAA ski races would come around, anywhere between Mammoth and Diamond Peak, I would show up at that with this van and try to help the racers that were on K2 have the best opportunity to win. Right. And I learned a shit ton, doing that, working with guys like Mark Husky and like real pro World Cup ski tuner dudes.
So when you say you learned a lot, was it learning a lot about just like the science of wax and glide, or was it like also about how to deal with personalities and I don't know.
Well,
I don't know what else.
As it developed, it was a lot of both. At first, it was really learning like how to wax and what was going on with structure and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But then I started servicing shops a bit for the snowboards because Brian, being a great guy, he's an old dude, or he was an older dude and a skier, and that kind of K2 brand, he was like an icon, right? Or is like. He was at that 70s, 80s wacky K2 kind of mentality, and he crushed it in NorCal.
Right. Well, K2 was crushing it in the 80s for sure. After the 84 Olympics, it's like that was the all-American ski brand.
Yeah, and Brian crushed it. And the thing is, though, he couldn't really walk into a skateboard or a snowboard or well, there weren't snowboard shops, but I actually knew a lot of the skateboard shops, and I knew a lot of the surfing shops just from my lifestyle at the time. And I got to walk in, and Brian helped me a lot, but I opened a lot of the accounts that kind of became snowboarding accounts down in Northern California back in the day. Started going into skateboard shops and snowboard shops and really being like, hey, man, I know it's a ski brand, but this is they made shitty snowboards with foam in them, and now they're making these wood snowboards that are just the same construction as the skis, coming out of the same factory, really high quality. They got a great team. They're really supporting it. This guy Luke Edgar and Haley and Brent. These guys are good people, and they're mountaineers. They're not really just sitting in an office all day every day. This is a real brand, and man, we did it. That early K2 days when we were pushing the Fat Bob and the ACs, we really did it. And so, long story short, I finished my degree at Sierra Nevada College after, I don't even know how long, because I took a small load so I could work. And was kind of expecting to get a job up in Vashon, being a team manager or sales manager, working in-house for K2 after putting in all these years. And they kind of broke my heart. I went up there and was all excited to get this job, and this other guy walked out, and they gave him the job. They didn't give me the job, a shop guy from Virginia. Super good.
What was his name?
Dave Billinghurst. Great
I know
guy.
Dave Billinghurst. Yeah, totally.
So Dave got the job and I didn't, and I was a little bit like, whoa, that's fucking harsh.
Right. You felt you had paid all your dues. You're like, this is my opportunity. I have done this. I've done all the legwork, and this is the next step.
And so I left Vashon with my girlfriend Paula, and we just kind of went on a road trip. Made it as far as Meager Creek up by Whistler. We did a hot springs tour of I-5 and the 101.
Okay.
And I ended up getting a job with my buddy Rusty Dobbs doing Glissade.
Oh yeah.
So I was the sales manager for Glissade, and we made crap snowboards. We started a line called Harvest. That was super rad, and really learned how to build a business from Greg Pronko. He's a super smart guy. Him and Mike. And Mike O'Reilly, they built that brand, and they did a great job. I learned how to deal with the Japanese distributor, a Swiss distributor. We worked with South Americans. We really learned how to make OEM product. Just learned a ton. Learned how to sell shitty snowboards on the side of the road at skate parks or dump them at Play It Again Sports to try to make payroll.
Right.
And then I started doing Soup Kitchen. So I was a team manager for this small company called Soup Kitchen.
I remember Soup Kitchen as well.
Oregon. So super rootsy, kind of went from K2, who really knew what they were doing, to Glissade and Soup, who really didn't know what they were doing. And I think I was able to facilitate some really good change for both those companies. It was really, really fun and great people.
Right. Yeah, you saw kind of how K2 had their business set up and their operations, and you were able to maybe implement a few of those things, or at least let them know that people are doing things a little bit differently in the big business world.
Right, and I saw where the opportunity was. There's no point in taking a snowboard that says crap and trying to sell it to, Big Five Sports. It's not going to happen. Right. But crap went real good in Japan and went real good in skate shops. They saw the humor in it, and they were really great snowboards. Or innovative anyways. Enough about that shit. So the thing with Glissade was, the better I was doing – I would crank it up and get the reps working and hire more reps, do all the stuff. We'd make more money, and then the conversation was always about how I could get paid less.
What do you mean how you could get paid less? How does that even make sense? Yeah,
when you're a rep, you basically, you make, let's say you sell $100,000 and they give you 8%. You're like, yay, I got 8% on that $100,000. The next year you come in and you pull $2 million. Right. The first thing they're going to say to you is, we want to cut your commission to 6%, or we want to go direct, or we want to hire the rep in house, or whatever it is, right? Yeah. And so I kind of saw the writing on the wall with that one, and was like, that's cool, and I think I can do that, and I even think I could probably elevate my game as a rep or a sales manager. And I was 26, and I was like, fuck it, I think I should own my own company. I should try to be the boss, because the only path to what I want to do, which is ride powder every day, is if I'm a boss. Yep. Because those guys make the money. Everyone else is just fighting for it. And I don't want to fight for it like that. So I figured at 26, I was going to send out on my great life's adventure and say, fuck it. And I figured I'd just fail at the coolest thing I could possibly fail at. Yep. Like, if I'm going to crater into the ground, it's not going to be trying to make a new fucking egg beater. I'm going to try to build a back ski resort where I ride POW every day. And
Yeah, you don't want to be the number one drywall salesman in the in the greater Chicago area.
Exactly. I'm going to fail on a huge scale at something awesome. So, you know, my girlfriend at the time and I had broken up. She went to India to go see the world, and I basically just started tripping around the Northwest, really getting into the backcountry from Shasta north.
What year is this, would you say?
This would have been like 96.
Okay. Okay.
So I was just at the birth of splitboards. You know, I was snowshoeing around, had a splitboard, but it was shitty. Ended up snowshoeing more than anything. And so Paula was in India, and we were broken up. And I finally had some money from Glissade left over, and I had bought a house in Tahoe with the money that I had made at K2. Well, it was a small, you know, Tahoe. It wasn't an estate. It wasn't one of those houses.
Right.
But
it wasn't incline. It wasn't incline. It was
wasn't
more
incline in Kings Beach. And the community of friends I have and had down there is just like so supportive and so amazing. Like, I really have good friends from Tahoe that have stuck with me till today that I love. They're my brothers and sisters. So they really took good care of me in my efforts. And basically I decided once in my life I was going to go heli skiing. I wanted to go heli skiing really bad, and I couldn't afford it. I called every heli skiing operation. Finally, Kayaks called me back. Said, hey, we got an opening. You know, a guy hurt himself, and if you can get up here, we can give you a 7-day trip for like $1,600.
Oh, that's not a bad deal.
I was like, fuck, I'm driving. So I drive up, and I actually shredded the whole way up. End up at Stevens Pass with my buddy Arlie Karstens, who used to write. Who was a pivotal figure in my life, actually. Who
amazing musician as well. I got to say, Juno. I was a fan anyway.
Yeah, Juno. He has a new album.
Does he?
Anyways, so Adams and Void. There you go, Arlie. There's a plug for you.
Yeah.
Great behind the scenes music, but. So Arlie and I go ripping at Alpatal with like BJ Kaiser and all these great guys, Kirk Jensen from back in the day, Elon Bouchel and Monty, and I end up busting my ankle on my way up. And I go to Harborview because I have no money or insurance, and they're like, yeah, you got a spiral fracture in your calcaneus, and you know you should probably stay off of it. So I call Tayax. I'm like, I broke my ankle. They go, well, we're not giving you your money back. You can come up and eat the food.
Oh, man.
There's no refunds on this because we gave you a great deal. And I was like,
come up here and we'll rub the salt in the wounds for you.
And at this point, it's literally my last $1,600 going to go. It's so dumb.
Oh, wow.
So I go up there, and they got this kind of arrogant dickhead guide who I know the guy now really well. I won't say his name, but he was just a fucking prick. And I was the only snowboarder. This other guy, Mike, came up. He ended up about halftime snowboarding. He was a pharmacist. He taped my ankle up, gave me some pills to take, and went snowboarding. And the guide was just like, all he wanted to see was like perfect snakes going down the hill.
Stack your tracks, dog. Stack your tracks.
And I was like, and like, man, I don't know if anyone's been up to Lillooet, but it is gorgeous terrain. Like, the Chilcotin is gorgeous. And we were landing in, like, the call and, like, shredding down to a super shitty pickup. And yet all these chutes and terrain and cliffs and all the squaw valleys everywhere. And we're just doing the mountain run in a helicopter.
Yep. I've actually been there and done that and had a similar experience to you. So I could relate to that personally.
After, like, 4 days, the guide is like – and he's just making fun of me all the time for not being able to listen, or he's stoned, or just being a dick. You know how it was back in the day.
Yeah, I couldn't listen to the guides there either, by the way.
Yeah, it was really disappointing on a lot of levels, you know?
Yeah.
So it ends up, Paula's dad was on that trip, and he's like, have you kept in touch with Paula? And I'm like, no, it's too hard. She's going to send me a letter that says she fell in love with some Indian guru, and I'm still in love with her. We broke up because of, you know, the right reasons. He's like, that's ridiculous. You guys are good friends. You've been together a long time. She's back from India. You should go at least say hey. She was over in Nelson in BC.
Okay.
And I made it down to Arlie's house in Seattle and had one of those long nights with Arlie, drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes, and listening to kind of emo music.
Right.
And although he'd probably kill me for misclassifying whatever music we were listening to, but it was kind of, you know.
I would put it into the emo genre. Anyhow.
There was no mascara involved in listening.
Okay.
But
get that out of the way, right?
The next morning, I either had a choice: drive south on the 5, get back to Tahoe, or head over to Nelson and go see Paula again. And I ended up driving over to Nelson, and basically, me and Paula were meant to be, and we fell in love again, like right away. She was the editor of the newspaper here, and we spent 2-3 days together. And I was like, drove back to Tahoe, going, fuck.
Is she Canadian?
She's Canadian.
Okay.
She was a Canadian ski racer who took a scholarship to Sierra Nevada College.
I got you. Okay.
So I drove back down to Tahoe and was really in a funk and was just like, God, I'm in love with Paula, but I can't really go to Canada, and I don't know what I want to do, and this and that. And I ended up drinking in the day, turning into a day drinker, eating pizza too much. And my buddy who owned the pizza place, Jim Fraps, he's like, you were just up in BC? He goes, you ever been cat skiing? I'm like, I went to Mount something with K2 one time. What's that place in Oregon? Mount Bailey. I'm like, yeah, I went to Mount Bailey. It was pretty hokey. He's like, I want to go cat skiing in BC, but you can't go. Fraps is like, there's 8 operations and they're all booked out, and they all just tell you if somebody cancels, we'll call you. But they're all booked out with groups of 12. I'm like, huh. And so Fraps was like, why don't you get that girlfriend of yours to ask around up there what's going on with cat skiing up there? Like, how is there terrain left, or what do you do, And I'm like, well, I'm kind of interested in doing something with my life, Rad. And I was thinking ski touring at the time. And, I was kind of thinking of heli skiing. And I was like, man, the thing is, I went up there and they were such dicks. Those guys are like European assholes, like I wouldn't want to run a place like that. And then all of a sudden, between Fraps and Paul and I, like all in my mind, all the necessary components fell in, and I was like, oh, I can start a fucking backcountry operation that's just like for snowboarders. And we welcome skiers. We welcome the whole bro culture. Like, I knew at the time snowboarding was exploding, and I knew skiing was following snowboarding. Even back then, Brad Holmes was starting. Freeze magazine was there.
Yep.
And I was like, those guys don't want to hang out with fucking asshole ski guides either. Those guys, there's a whole new generation of skiers and snowboarders coming up that are not going to be interested in counting their vertical, comparing their stupid watch to the guy next to them, talking about their trust funds and their bond market in the helicopter. Like, we want to smoke weed, and we want to drink, and we want to be idiots. We want to light shit on fire.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you just didn't want to take yourself too seriously.
Never, man. I ran a snowboard company called Crap,
Yeah.
So I kind of saw this opening and came to Nelson and just started, like, literally I had an 83 Toyota and a shitty RMK 600, old one, but it was sweet. And I would just drive up drainages in BC and send it on my snowmobile until I would get stuck, and then snowshoe up some ridge and go shredding. And, like, I was 27 at this point, like, with my girl in Canada. I was ready to fail. Like, adventure complete. I fucking did it. I'm from Cleveland, like, that was it.
Yeah.
That shit, those were great days.
Yeah, it's like, how do you get better than that? You're like, I'm already in BC.
Yeah.
Like, where do I take it from here?
With the girl.
Yeah.
It's happening. So, I'm going out from Nelson. I went up to Revelstoke. I went up to Golden. I was all over the province, man. I toured places that are now Micah heli skiing. I toured Chatter Creek. I could let you know all these cool drainages I checked out. This guy Patrick was starting Snowwater heli skiing. He was real generous. Let me be a caretaker for him. So I learned a lot then. And one thing after another, I kind of met this guy, John Buffrey, legendary ski guide and my mentor and one of my best friend anybody could ever have. He saw that I was going out alone every day, and he maybe questioned my backcountry skills due to my equipment.
Sounds like he was on the right track.
So he pulls me aside at Oso Negro, our iconic coffee shop, and he's like, what are you doing, dude? I don't know you, but I know you're going hard and you're going every day. I see ya. And I kind of told him what I was up to, and he's like, we just had a wreck that killed 9 people up at Kokanee Glacier. Some of them are real close to this community. This whole community is really hurting, and it's a really dangerous snowpack this year. He's like, why don't you take me with you? I'm a ski guide. I'd love to see how you're doing. Help you steer your ship.
Okay.
So you don't get killed. And what a dude. I mean, you should really do a podcast with Buffrey sometime. He is just words fail, right? He's an enlightened human being, and he has made my life what it is today for sure, as has Paula and a lot of people. But Buff started going with me, and then the game started changing and getting a bit more serious, and there was some responsibilities involved. And man, me and Buff had some great times touring around, checking shit out. And my ethic was like, I want to find a place that's like, at first it was like, I want big mountains and gnarly terrain and giant chutes and big cliffs. But the more I started thinking about it, the more I was like, when I go to Squaw Valley, my favorite place to go is Paulson's.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want people watching me from a chairlift and the whole main line and just the whole flat landings till you kill your knees. And I was like, that's not me, man. I like steep, deep pow in trees is my shit. I fucking love it because you don't have to think too much and the consequences aren't as gnarly. I mean, you hit a tree, it's gnarly, but steep trees are where you can really let go and become one. That oneness, that presence with the moment really happens for me at places like Homewood or Alpine or Paulson's. It doesn't really happen for me in the Alpine as much. Mm-hmm. The Alpine, your eyes are up and you're looking around and you're thinking and you look back at your turns. The trees are a moment in time. You can't turn around and look back up at that cliff you hit. You can't point it out to your friends. There's no ego. It's just shred. Mm-hmm. So as we were checking out terrain, man, the trees, which you got to get here sometime, Mark, the trees are so perfectly spaced where we're at. The Kootenays are known for deep pow, great tree skiing, steep lines. And Buff and I started exploring it, and slowly he brought Craig Kelly into the fold. And
was Craig already up there, or how?
Well, Craig was tripping around trying to figure out what he wanted to do, and Buff was his mentor as well. He'd gone to some adventures with him, just got back from Iran with him and Ari and Gallup. And Craig saw the same thing that I saw after spending all his time at Island Lake, that there was a real opening for guys like us. Mm-hmm. And no cut on Island Lake, great place, like really fantastic operation, beautiful terrain. Fernie's just a gem. But Craig saw that there was an opportunity to hit another side of the market and wanted to do something different. And he was talking with Buff, same kind of thing, talking about doing a ski touring thing at the time and maybe doing this. And then we all started getting together and we found the terrain that we have now. And it was Craig that was like, this is where you should do it. Don't go up to Chatter. Don't go where it's gnarly and steep. You'll be scared all the time. Craig was like, that's why guides are dicks. Because they're fucking scared of guys like you showing up and getting killed and wrecking their reputation.
Yeah.
Therefore, ski steep trees, cliffs, subalpine, get into the alpine here and there, connecting ridges with following creeks underneath so there's not chokes. The terrain is magic, and Craig and Buff identified it. I can't really take a ton of credit for it, and it's real close to Nelson, which there wasn't an operation. Snowwater was just starting up, but there was nothing like it at the time, and Nelson is awesome town. Just love it here. And so all these, like I said, all the jigsaw puzzle pieces started falling into place, and my life all of a sudden was just like fucking I'm shredding with Craig Kelly and Buff and just going home to Paula every night. I was like, this is fucking awesome, right?
Right.
It was the life. And man, what a time we had then. So then at the same time, I was taking this little house I had in Tahoe and remodeling it like you wouldn't believe, like digging the cellar out.
How are you doing that if you were in Nelson?
Because you could only be in Canada for 6 months at a time without a visa. So I was like coming up for a week, going down for a week, coming up for 2 weeks, going down for a month, like doing that. And I would just remodel my house. And I had an ad in the paper in Tahoe, guy with truck. So I would like fix people's gutters at lakefront houses and stuff and like sweep up before they get there. And that was my life for like 2 years. And I kept remodeling my house. And this electrician who was helping me remodel my house was in love with my idea of starting a lodge. And I had written a business plan at this point with Fraps. And this guy, Fat Tony, but we won't talk about him. He was a scumbag, robbed us. But part of business.
Part of business, yeah, for sure.
I wrote this business plan, and the electrician, the tuna man, Brian, took my business plan, went to Incline to a wealthy man whose house he was working on, and dropped it on his desk. Clandestine, destiny from the tuna man. Dropped it on his desk, and I get a phone call like 2 weeks later, like, hey, who the fuck are you? And how the fuck did you get into my house? And I'm like, sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, man.
And he's like, what is Baldface? I'm like, oh, that's my business plan. I've been working on that for a while. I don't know why you'd have a copy of it. He's like, well, there's a copy on my desk right now. And I want to know how you did it. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, do you know? I don't know. I started telling him my story, and he goes, oh, Brian, is he helping you be an electrician? I'm like, yeah. He goes, he's my buddy. The Tuna Man did it. And he's all excited that the Tuna Man dropped my business plan on his desk. This guy's name is Rob Lohan. Great guy. Made a boatload of money in the first .com boom. Was looking to invest in some cool things. So Rob came on as my first partner. And that's when Craig came on, and we actually wrote the, legal mumbo jumbo and the share structure and all that kind of stuff that you got to do to run a business. And we were off to the races to go build a $6 million top state-of-the-art kick-ass lodge with a fucking pinball machine room in it, a wildlife viewing platform, and it was going to be great. And everybody's all happy. And Rob's writing checks, and we're going down the road planning this thing, and we're talking.
So were you nervous, like taking $6 million? I mean, you had never really built a lodge, and it seems like a lot of responsibility to jump right into from, sweeping people's decks off before they get there to building a $6 million lodge.
Hey, man, even then, I just kind of felt like all these things are happening right now. Mm-hmm. Who am I to fucking doubt this? Right. The great spirit has bestowed all of this upon me. Who am I to start doubting this? Right. Fuck that. Like, if you're given gifts, you smile and say thank you. You don't say why me or I'm gonna fail next time. Fuck that. I was not gonna fail. No way. Yep. I was worthy of that. I was worthy of that because this thing was a noble quest.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
However, and the thing was, it was cool. I was working with like road engineers and the government, learning how to I built a new freaking road through the woods.
Did you have like a 10-year set? Did you have your land set then? When you started building?
I could talk for hours on how we had to
I bet you could.
The public meetings we had to go through, and people thought I was a goddamn uranium miner for the United States working for the CIA to steal shit from Canada. It was usually the shit I had to deal with. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I had a guy tell me he was going to shoot me one time. Huh. He's like, I don't give a shit what anybody says, you fucking American. I'm going to fucking shoot you. You're not even going to hear it coming.
Yeah. I've dealt with a lot of like small town politics in Alaska, because it's like in Alaska, it's like if you're not from there, then they're a little skeptical.
Oh, yeah. They were quite skeptical.
Yeah.
Raps looked at the dude, pointed his big fucking sausage finger right in the guy's face, and he said, don't fucking miss. Is what he said.
Oh,
it was awesome. Because Fraps was like, I won't hide in the trees and shoot you like some coward. He's like, you'll know it's me. Like,
oh, man.
It was gnarly. So anyways, and I'm kind of going fast because I got to go fishing,
Yeah,
but,
yep.
So we're all on point to build this beautiful lodge, and then some jerk flies a fucking bunch of planes into a bunch of towers. The United States goes crazy. 9/11 happens. The world banking goes crazy, and my partner Rob calls me, and he's like, yeah, I'm not writing any fucking checks for anything weird right now.
Yeah.
And I'm, but I already sold seats. He's like, yep. So we had run for 2 years as a day operation, right, before this. And we had gotten our tenure, and we had run for 2 years as a day operation. Craig was one of the guides. Buff was a guide. Mark Fawcett was a guide. The community came out. Oh, man, it was so great. And then we were going to build a lodge, and Rob is like, yeah, guys, I love you, but I can't do it. I don't know what's going to happen with the world. It doesn't feel like a good move. And I'm like, fuck. So we pare it way back, and we basically build a 40 by 40 timber frame and bring a bunch of ACO trailers up on the mountain. Mm-hmm. And it's a concession, but I kept sight of the fact that the lodge is the lodge, man. What's really happening is we're connecting people to that infinite wisdom of the backcountry. Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing. The lodge is a nice to have, but it's not a need to have. The snowcats are the need to have. The roads are the need to have. The shredding is the need to have. Cool guides are need to have.
Yep.
The fancy lodge is nice to have. So I kept plowing ahead. And man, we built the lodge. We barely fucking got it done. We spent about $600,000 on it. Half from deposits, half from Rob, which was great. I kept mortgaging my house. I kept putting money in, and we did it. But, 2003 was when Craig was killed, and that was right after we had opened. So that was the 23rd of January, and that was like, there were moments there where I was like, wow, how deep can I go? I was surprised with myself. And I was really bolstered by a lot of my friends around. But, I was taking phone calls from the New York Times the day after it happened.
Yeah, there must have been a lot of thought, like a lot of doubt in your mind of like, am I doing the right thing? Is this really a noble quest, or what the heck am I doing here?
I don't know. It wasn't. It was like, I don't know. It never really entered my mind. It was like, Craig, I don't know. There was a lot happening at that time, and it's kind of coming up again because there's some stuff going on with it. And I think, if anything, it motivated me further, man.
Really?
Yeah, it was just like, Craig was fucking right, man. We are for real. This is going to happen. I can't fucking quit. He wouldn't want me to quit, and I don't want to quit. And it made me a better man. Sometimes when you lose a really good friend or a mentor, it can destroy you. But I think in this case, I just want to honor the fact that Craig picked me out somehow and invested himself in me and not let him down,
Right.
It would have been tragic if I did.
Yep, because
So-
I think he really loved that place as much as you did, or maybe, who knows, So,
Well, I don't know.
regardless, everyone takes risk in the backcountry, and, that's the kind of the bridge that you cross as a backcountry rider is that, hey, you could die doing what you love, And I think everyone, at least I know, who is pretty involved, accepts that, and I certainly do.
Well, so we kept pounding on, and I'll kind of accelerate the story because I really haven't answered any questions yet other than the first one. But
That's the idea, is to have a conversation, by the way, not to
all
just...
right, I'm sorry. So we pounded on, and, we've been improving the lodge ever since. That was 2003. We're 2018 now. Yeah, the lodge is more successful than I ever thought it would have been. Yet, I'm not surprised at all. If I'm good at anything, it's that I'm really good at hiring, and I really try to have a good crew up there that understands what I'm doing, and I've attracted the best customers in our sector. Nobody has better. I'm like Donald Trump. Nobody has better customers than us. I got the best people that come out.
Except your customers are like Gags and Jamie Lynn and Bridges. You do have some good customers.
Customer. He's like a cat that just shows up.
Yeah.
But
a blue cat, yeah.
I mean, all the pro shreds come out, and like Jamie, Jamie was in a pretty rough place a long time ago, over 10 years ago, and Billy Anderson and I are good friends, and he's been bringing Volcom out forever, and that's how my relationship really came together with Volcom, which has been really great, even though Billy's not there anymore. There was a time there where Jamie wasn't really that grounded.
Yep. Yeah, I remember those times.
And I remember looking him with Landvik. We were real drunk out on the deck of one of the porches, and Billy back when we were drinkers. I think we're all pretty cleaned up now. And I just looked at Jamie and I was like, snowboarding fucking sucks without you snowboarding. So you can go be a biker or a musician or whatever the fuck you want to do, Jamie. But as long as I'm running this place, you can come here as much as you want, because snowboarding is way better when you snowboard. We can't have another guy that just drops out.
Yeah, especially Jamie Lynn.
So Jamie is our cat, and I never know when he's coming, and I never know when he's leaving, but I'm always glad he's there, and I will take care of him with my lodge till the day I die. And that's like kind of maybe why, I don't know. It's maybe commitments like that make me honor my own commitment to snowboarding, because it's just like, if Jamie's not snowboarding, I don't really want to do it. I love going with that guy. We have so much fun together.
Yeah.
And like, same with Trav, like I get to go with Travis, and that dude is he puts so much pressure on himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's insane how much pressure he puts on himself.
Yeah.
And he handles it so well. And he comes to Baldface, and we go out with my daughter, who's 15, a couple staff members, and you get to see Travis just fucking shredding. And it's magical. And it's a shame there's no cameras there, but it's awesome that there's no cameras there.
That's what I was about to ask you. Does he ride without cameras? Because I know Shaun White actually doesn't really ride without cameras.
Travis took 2 days. It took my daughter, who's an aspiring pro snowboarder who rips and is a great kid.
And it's got a leg up on the competition.
She's not into competition. She's into
No, I mean a leg up on the competition of girls aspiring to be pro riders, like she can ride powder all the time.
She does. She wants to be the youngest female split boarding guide ever. She's working on.
Cool.
But Travis took 2 days out of his busy schedule with Zimmerman just to ride with her.
Wow.
And like, who's a better mentor for my kid? You know, like it's just such a beautiful thing that we've created up there. Yeah. And to be able to get guys like pro shreds that come out and not film. Like I get pro snowboarders that, you know, who want to bring their parents out or their brothers and sisters. It's like, that's what Baldface is. It's like, we're not the spotlight, the epitome of what's gnarly, and we're not Alaska. And I'm glad we're not like Northern BC. Like we are what we are. We're the Kootenays. Yep. And it's fucking great. You know, this is an amazing place. I wouldn't change anything as far as who we ride with and what we ride and why we do it. And, you know, there's people that are like, oh, Baldface, you know, there's steeper places to go with gnarlier terrain. And I'm like, absolutely, man. And we kind of skipped over a lot of those places because that equals a lot of stress too and risk. Mm-hmm. And especially after losing Craig, it was like, don't need it.
Yeah.
Don't need it, man.
I've lived in those crosshairs.
Yeah, man. Shred, pow, steep, ease, you know?
Yeah. So here's a question for you. Did you derive more satisfaction? Do you derive more satisfaction from the success that Baldface has today, or the process of like taking something that was a dream and then making it, like bringing it to fruition?
I don't know. I think I'm just perpetually dissatisfied, unfortunately. Like, I still haven't gotten to the point. We're still building the fucking lodge, man. Like, I don't know. I kind of feel like there's a part of me that says the second I think it's a success or the second I start reflecting on my own whatever is the second that I lose it. I lose the plot. So I think I kind of have a mental wall up where I'm like, I'm not done. I don't get to turn around and say, what a great bike ride that was, because I'm not done with it yet.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, if you're a snowboarder, right, progression is everything in snowboarding, just, you know, finding your glass ceiling and breaking through it. And so I think that actually applies to business as well, where you're constantly trying to progress yourself. And when you sit back on your laurels and you're satisfied, you know, maybe that's the point where, you know, it starts to fall apart, as you said, because, you know, you're not actually trying to push yourself anymore. You know, and that thing that kind of tied together a lot of your life is now gone. You know, does that make sense?
It totally does.
Okay. So let's talk about the future of Baldface then. You know, I mean, I think everyone. It seems like you guys are now booked out pretty much solid all year. It's probably hard to get a seat.
It's an interesting question. Like I'm constantly asked with my entrepreneurial mind, what's next and what's next, and are we expanding and. Lots of great opportunities. But this is my philosophy on it is what if an entrepreneur looked at a company and said, this company can get this big, and that's as big as the company gets. Mm-hmm. Like the complexity of growing also creates a lot of challenges. And I don't know that I'm so well suited to handle those challenges. So, you know, yeah, we may buy another place someday or we may do something, but only if my team is ready to do it. Not me. Because the next move we got to make is as a team, not really me deciding what we're doing. And right now we just bought a building downtown Nelson. We're going to move our office into it. We're going to kind of expand into a kitchen in town, not a restaurant that's going to support the lodge. And I'm going to open a little fly fishing shop and a retail shop for Baldface. And we're kind of expanding the Baldface empire onto an online store, which is doing all right. And then we're probably going to get into some summer stuff sooner or later. But, you know, when I wrote the original business plan, it was 36 people, 12 weeks out of the year on a bell-shaped curve, right?
Yep.
You know, we're running 44 people for 12 weeks now, with 4 weeks on either side as a kind of taper, and I just don't want it to get any bigger. I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I may add heli skiing because there's some great terrain and we do go over there sometimes, and I may do it, but I won't add any more people. I would do that within that 44 people.
Right.
And I think, like, one of the problems with the world right now, since I got a little small soapbox you're giving me to stand on, is like companies should only be so big. Like, I don't think you start a cat skiing company and be like, hey, this is just going to grow forever until I turn into Powder Corp or Vail and I own ski areas.
Yeah.
Like, that's stupid. Like, why not? Why can't people be like Volcom? Why can't Volcom say, hey, there's $1 billion sold in our sector every year and we want to be a $200 million player. And once we get to be all right, Volcom probably wants to be a $600 million player. But once we get to be that number, then we learn then we eat our suppliers. Then we get bigger other ways by being more efficient. We get bigger by going up the supply chain instead of, you know, buying other companies and trying to consolidate and fucking up the industry and fucking it up for yourself and everybody in the long term by dumping products so that your books look good so that you can grow, you know?
Yeah.
And that whole venture capital thing is just crazy, of growth over growth. Like, there's a point where a company's its right size. And I kind of feel like Baldface is the right size right now.
Yeah.
We're paying off the debt. I'm paying the employees well. You know, the customers are happy. They're rebooking. The government's happy with us. Like, I don't know that I need to do a bunch of growing right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying, which doesn't exactly apply, but it's like, you know, people rise to their own level of incompetence, which is like a company grows to the right size, but then if you're like one of these investment banker types, there is no limit, right? Because it's always about making more money or doing more, and so then you're like, oh man, well, what can we do to make more money? It's funny, like I worked in magazines, and when I was at Snowboarder, we had 5 different owners. Right, over the course of 7 years, 5 different owners, and like it was always the same story. It was like a new owner would come in, we're not changing anything, and then the next thing you know, 6 months later, everything is completely different. Right, they're instituting everything because they think they have like a better formula to achieve more money or to pull more money out of it and to make it grow, and that's not always the case. You know, I think that if you can find your happy place, you will derive more satisfaction from that than having this carrot on a stick. You know, I guess it's how you measure it, maybe. Like, if you measure it by just money, if that's the only way you measure it. But, you know, I think that you have a different tool in your toolbox of measurement as well, which is like, yeah, you want to be able to pay down your debt, but you also are changing people's lives with Pinnacle Life Experience. And isn't that rich?
You hit the nail on the head. Like, my life, I'm not rich, but I live such a rich life.
Yep.
And I hang out with some really rich people that take me on amazing trips sometimes. So it's the next best thing to owning a private plane is having a friend who has one.
All right. I saw you just went to like Greenland or Iceland or something.
I just went to Greenland with Mark Gallup.
Yeah.
And I was partnered up with Scott Schmidt, the skier, the whole time. Who's a
yeah, I know Scott Schmidt, the first
really
extreme
nice
skier.
Yeah, and you know, we're flying around unexplored areas of Greenland, and I'm
in a private jet.
Yeah, we flew over private, which was really nice, and I brought my buddy Demian with me, and my buddy Andy, who is my business partner, who's just amazing, and I got to hang out with some wildly successful business people, and you know, what I learned is, like, even if you have the private jets and all the money in the world and the success and the freedom that entails, we're all after the same thing, which is just connection. You know, and whether that's a connection to yourself through your experiences or a connection to others through experiences, I think the thing that I've learned is, like, whether it's surfing or snowboarding or golf, I hate to say golf, but whatever that thing is, mountain biking, fishing, which I'm about to go fishing right now, like, whatever that thing is that connects you to something, so you're not just one of these beings floating around outer space with no purpose and no understanding and no connection, these poor lost souls. Like, I think places like Baldface or fishing trips or a trip to Greenland or fucking trip to the park, it doesn't matter. Anything that gets you connected to nature and connected to yourself through that, I think is a worthy and necessary pursuit for humanity right now more than ever. And even watching these, like, oil company oligarchs, I mean, these guys I was with are big players. It all boils down to the same thing. We all need food, we all need love, and we all need a connection.
Yeah.
You know, and It doesn't really matter. Whether you do it at Peak and Peak in upstate New York, or whether you do it at Baldface, or whether you go to the Himalayas, it's the same.
Yeah.
That moment.
I agree. And, you know, I'd say the thing that put me on the path to starting Tailgate Alaska was doing marketing for a guy who was a partner at Goldman Sachs. And this guy was worth hundreds of $millions. I'm not going to mention his name, because what I found, like, after working with him for a few months is, like, basically this guy actually doesn't have happiness in his life. And so every couple months he'll go buy a new Ferrari or a new $50,000 watch, and then that makes him happy for a month or two. But really, there's this vacuum, because the only thing he has to measure his success with is money. And that to me seemed like a lie. Like, money actually isn't the way to measure yourself. It's in other ways. And that kind of put me on the path to doing Tailgate, which now, like, in hindsight, has been a very enriching part of my life. You know. So one more question for you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Describe yourself to me in 20 years.
Oh, man. I am, let's see, in 20 years I'd be 68. I would be the father of 4 awesome young adults.
Mm-hmm.
I probably will still be shredding POW and fishing. Might not be riding my bike as much. I'll be married to the same woman, and we'll be living in the same house here in the Kootenays in this beautiful town, Nelson. And Baldface will have all the debt paid off, and I'll be pulling out a decent chunk of change and hopefully, you know, enjoying the later years of my life. You know, I hope to stay fit and active all the way through it, and hopefully, I don't know, hopefully I find someone to run Baldface, or one of my kids takes it over and starts running it, and we'll still own it, or part of it. And, you know, I do a lot of consulting on the side, and hopefully some of the businesses that I work with on the side are amazingly successful with happy ownership, and I've helped help people do that. There you go.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for your time. You know, I'm excited to make it to Baldface. I haven't yet, but
this is the year, Mark.
I've been obsessed with Alaska, but now actually I built myself a cabin right on Thompson Pass. You can go to powexplorer.com if you got a few minutes, because I consider it, for me anyway, for my pursuit in snowboarding, like the best house in the world for skiing and snowboarding. But that's like I created my own path. I've driven towards that goal, and so that was, you know, part of it. You know, so now that gives me the freedom. I've handed off Tailgate. I got another guy running it now. You know, taking 5,000, almost 5,000 people to the backcountry, all have to decide whether they're willing to die doing what they love is great, because then you have these you know, pinnacle life experiences holding your feet to the fire. But being the guy who beat the drum to get them there isn't necessarily it adds a little bit of stress to your life, you know. And so I'm just trying to enjoy my snowboarding too, and not live in this world of like always worrying about other people and whether they're going to.
The lodge this winter, man. We'll do it.
Yeah, I'd love to come there. I'll tell you that. And and I know my friends go there all the time, so maybe I'll go up there with some friends.
We'll get you out there.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I'd love to follow up with another interview. We could talk about all sorts of subjects, because you're a really fascinating character in the sport of snowboarding, and really contribute something great to our sport.
On behalf of Mark Sullivan and the Beeve, thanks for listening to the Snowboard Project. Remember, ride fast, take chances, dream big, and take action. And for God's sake, don't be a pussy. Don't forget to support advertising-free snowboarding media at patreon.com. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project. The Snowboard Project.